2 seasons of elbows, body checks, and cheap shots from Marina Mabrey. 2 seasons of Caitlin Clark and Lexi Hall absorbing hits while refs swallowed their whistles. June 16 was supposed to be another one of those nights. Mabrey going after Hall again, the officials missing calls. Toronto trying to bully Indiana out of a win. Instead, Sophie Cunningham caught fire in a way nobody expected. Caitlin Clark brought Showtime back to Indiana. And the Fever walked out of that building with 113 points and a 4-game winning streak, destroying Mabrey and sending her team packing. Go back to 2025 and the Connecticut Sun game because that's where this whole thing actually started. And most people only remember the headline. What actually went down on the floor was worse than the headline. J.C. Sheldon pokes Clark in the eye. Clark goes down. She's hurt. She's on the floor. And before anyone can even react, Marina Mabrey comes charging in and body checks her. Not a foul, not a hard screen, not even a basketball play. A body check on a player who's already down and injured. That's what happened and the refs let it go. Lexi Hall was the first Fever player to get in Mabrey's face after that. And that decision followed Hall for the rest of the game because Mabrey spent the next 3 quarters going after her, specifically getting physical every single time she was anywhere near Hall. Every time Hall set a screen, every time she cut, every time she was in Mabrey's zip code, Mabrey was grabbing, bumping, pushing. The officials swallowed their whistles through almost all of it. And that's the part that absolutely infuriated Fever fans because you could see it happening in real time and nothing was getting called. Now Mabrey has always played aggressive. That's not new. And aggressive isn't automatically dirty, but there's a clear line between playing hard and body checking a player who's already hurt and sitting on the floor. And Mabrey crossed it without any hesitation. One fan watching the game put it pretty bluntly. Yet, everyone complains about CC and Marina is 100 times worse. That reaction wasn't an outlier. That was the general feeling from anyone watching that game. What made the whole thing worse is that it wasn't a one-game situation. Over 2 seasons, Mabrey built up a specific pattern around Clark, using her physicality in ways that consistently didn't draw the calls they should have. And that pattern kept repeating without any real accountability. So, by the time June 16, 2026 arrives and Mabrey walks onto the floor wearing Toronto Tempo colors, Fever fans aren't sitting down to watch a regular season game. They're watching 2 seasons of frustration take the court. And then early in the June 16 game, Mabrey tries to throw an elbow at Lexi Hall. Same playbook, different jersey, different season. The refs respond the same way they usually do with Mabrey, which is to say they don't respond nearly enough. And Fever fans are getting that familiar sick feeling all over again. Indiana's response wasn't to get physical back. It wasn't to retaliate or escalate. The Fever just kept running their offense. Kept scoring, kept pushing, and by the time the final buzzer sounded, the scoreboard read 113 points. And Mabrey had to watch every single one of those baskets go in. Before this game, Cunningham was already running hot. And if you watched her against Connecticut, where she dropped 11 points in 2 minutes flat, you already knew she could go completely nuclear with almost no warning. Toronto kept clawing back in the second half and the officiating wasn't helping Indiana at all. Calls were getting missed. Decisions were going against the Fever in ways that kept handing Toronto momentum right when Indiana was trying to pull away. And anyone watching at home was getting that same sick feeling from games where it seemed like the refs were nudging things in a direction. Fever fans know that feeling well, and it wasn't a good one. And then Cunningham just started shooting, 6 of 7 from 3, 24 points in 24 minutes off the bench, a point per minute, which is her Fever career high by a wide margin. Commentators were joking on the broadcast that she must have a bionic elbow, a cyborg elbow, because her shots weren't even grazing the rim on the way through. She hit a buzzer beater at the end of the first quarter to close out the half on Indiana's terms. And then later in the second half, she buried another triple that pushed the Fever's lead back into double digits right when Toronto was trying to make it a game again. What makes Cunningham so hard to guard next to Clark is that she doesn't wait for the ball to find her. When Clark runs a pick and roll and pulls 2 defenders toward her, Cunningham is already relocating to the corner before the kickout pass even leaves Clark's hands. So, by the time a Toronto defender tries to recover and close out, Cunningham's release is already done and the ball is in the air. On this night, every single one of those shots went in. Her plus-minus finished at plus 26, the best of any player in the game on either side. So every minute Cunningham spent on the floor, Indiana was outscoring Toronto by a margin that made the final result feel pretty inevitable in hindsight. You can't manufacture that number with one or two big plays. That's sustained consistent winning while she's on the court. The refs couldn't do anything about a clean catch and shoot. And Cunningham wasn't giving them anything to call. Indiana finished with 25 total assists and shot 52% from the field. And neither of those numbers happens without Clark finding open shooters in rhythm and Cunningham punishing defenses for paying too much attention to Clark. When Clark draws two defenders, someone is always open. And Cunningham spent the whole night being that someone. The Fever scored 113 points, the most they've ever scored in regulation in franchise history. And a big chunk of why that number climbed that high is because every time Toronto tried to close the gap, Cunningham hit another three and stopped them cold.